Rumination will literally make you go insane, and I'm here to help you to get out of this state of rumination. I used to be a chronic ruminator, and from my years of rumination, I have found the secret formula that I'm going to share with you. Now, before we get into the secret formula, we need to know what rumination is so you can see if you resonate with this video or not. So according to Very Well Mind, rumination involves repetitive and passive thoughts focused on the cause and effects of a person's distress. However, these thoughts do not lead to a person engaging in active coping mechanisms or problem-solving strategies that would relieve distress and improve mood. Now, if that sounds like you, keep watching. I used to ruminate over things for years, and so when I say I know what's going on in your head, I know what's going on in your head. Rumination feels like you cannot control your thoughts, and a lot of times your thoughts are on autopilot, and sometimes these repetitive patterns of this certain thought that you're thinking about will go on for weeks without you realizing it, and maybe you'll have one day out of that week where it's like, whew, I'm not thinking about anything. And all of a sudden, something small can trigger it, and now you're back to repeating that repetitive thought cycle. And it can last a long time if you don't get out of it, because the more you're repeating into this repetitive thought cycle, the more that it's going to be harder for you to get out of it and to detach from that and live in the present. When I used to go through these phases of rumination, they were mostly triggered by someone who has hurt me, and now I'm here, you know, I've processed what just happened a month later. I'm like, wow, I could have said all of this. And because I never got a chance to say what I wanted to say, I'm ruminating on it, and it will last me for years. That's how it used to be. And it'll be to a point where I'm creating every single type of scenario possible that I could talk to this person. Any type of response this person's giving me, I have a response back. Any type of message that this person's going to say, I have a response back. I have a response for everything. That's how bad it would get. And it gets to the point, like, what is the purpose of me doing this? Really, what is the purpose of me ruminating? And if this sounds like you know, a lot of times it comes from, you know, being hurt, not getting the closure, not saying what you needed to say, regretting what you said and wishing that you said something else, or even just wanting to bump into someone so they can give you whatever that you're trying to look for. But the whole thing, the fact that you are looking for answers, the fact that you are looking for closure is what is causing your rumination to exist. And don't listen to anyone who says this, okay? I used to listen to this woo-woo stuff where they were like, yeah, because you're creating scenarios, you're gonna manifest it into your life, so keep thinking about those scenarios, and soon what you're trying to get is going to manifest. So you're basically feeding into my delusion, saying the more scenarios I create about the closure that I'm going to get, it's gonna manifest into my life. No, it's not, because I thought about something for 4 years straight, about the same situation over and over and over again. Did it manifest into my life? No. In fact, it made me go crazy. So don't listen to this woohoo stuff, okay? Rumination is none of this woohoo manifesting stuff, okay? Manifestation is real, but you being crazy, that's not manifestation, okay? You're actually being crazy, for real. Back when I was 15, I experienced something very, very dramatic in my life that caused me to go into rumination for 3 years. A situation happened and I wanted closure. I wanted an apology. I wanted to speak to this person. I wanted answers, and I wanted things to go my way. But the thing is, none of it went my way. So what would I do? I would create scenarios to figure out, it's like a game of chess. I'm creating so many different scenarios on how to make things go my way, to the point where now these scenarios are starting to impact the decisions I make in my life, where it's like, okay, I have this scenario, and if I want this to work so I can go to this person and get the thing that I need from this person, I need to go reach out to that person. I need to do this certain action. I need to dress this way. I need to act this way. It came to a point where I was changing myself to fit these scenarios that were going in my head. And when the scenario in my head didn't happen in real life, boom, I got the next scenario down. I know the steps to make the scenario happen. And if it didn't happen, I kept repeating that cycle. Now, did any of these scenarios come to real life? No. They just made me go insane, and it made me lose myself. I lost myself. I went on through this big depressive episode. I didn't even know who I was anymore because I was in a state of rumination, and I was in the state of a false reality and trying to make this reality in my head happen, all because I wanted answers and closure from someone. That taught me the biggest lesson of my life, and honestly, what happened to me at 15 is really what made me who I am today, and like this very strong individual I am today. And if you guys want a video on how to not seek closure from anyone, I can make that video, because that lesson really did teach me about closure does not matter. The only person that could give you closure is yourself. And that moment also taught me how to love myself. And honestly, I'm so grateful that I went through that, even though it was the worst time of my life. but I'm grateful because I've learned so much on the way that I can help you guys as well. Now, the way I got over this rumination, honestly, was me versus me. At the time, I was going through therapy, but I didn't tell them about any of this because I did not want to be put on medication. I did not, because I knew I wasn't crazy. I just knew that my mind was very weak and I was in a state of I lost myself and I need to find myself. And this damn medication is not going to make me find myself. And so I'm not telling them what's going on in my head. I'm going to figure out by myself. And I did. So I came across meditation. And specifically, there's this one dude I have been listening to since I was 17. His name is Michael Seeley. I will put his channel below. His meditations really, really helped me. And a lot of these meditations have taught me how to live in the present. The whole thing to get out of rumination is to live in the present moment. That is what your problem is. You are so focused on the world that's in your head that you're forgetting about the world that you could actually see and actually control. Just because you're not getting what you want doesn't mean that there are other things in life that you can focus on and work towards getting those things that you want. Because you can't control people's actions. That's where a lot of our rumination comes from. It comes from not being able to control this other person's action and wanting to control a scenario. We don't have control over people, and that also shows that you have a very controlling behavior. And when I realized this too, when I was in that state of rumination, I realized like, yeah, I do have a tendency to want to control things, and that is my way of wanting to control things. Another situation too, like recently, like when I was going through a breakup, I was in a state of rumination and it took me a really, really long time to get out of that state of creating all these scenarios. Is it bad as when I was 15? No, because one, I love myself. Two, I know who I am. Three, I have control over my mind and I know when my mind is taking over me. And that's the thing too, the more you practice kind of getting out of these mental struggles, the more you have power over your mind and you understand what triggers it. So guys, I was literally just experiencing this, and that's why I wanted to make this video too, to show you guys that you can get out of rumination. Anyway, let's go to the secret formula because I can keep talking about my life, but my life is not that important. This video is about you. So to get out of the state of rumination, like how I was saying when I started meditating, meditating is going to teach you how to live in the present. Meditating is going to teach you how to have control over your mind and your body and your feelings, and to be more observant of your feelings instead of reacting to them and instead of having them control you. When you're in the state of rumination, rumination is controlling you. So how can we get out of that state of rumination? Number two is realizing, where is rumination coming from? Is it coming from because you have resentment, because you don't have closure, because you hate what was done to you, because you're traumatized over something? You need to figure out what has caused the state of rumination and going into that root cause. Rumination is not the root cause of anything. Rumination is the manifestation of whatever the root cause is. For me, for example, in my recent breakup, my rumination was all the resentment I had after the rose-colored glasses were off and I finally saw the situation for what it was, and all the anger and all the things that I should have done to defend myself. But because I didn't, that's the trigger. And because I didn't, I went through this state of rumination. I just kept thinking about all the scenarios and everything I could actually say. But the thing is, what is done is done. And unfortunately, I had the rose-colored glasses on and I didn't see things for what it was. And it's okay, you'll learn your lesson. And for me, that situation taught me a lot about resentment, because that was the first time I've ever experienced so much resentment towards someone. And clearly, me holding on to that resentment has shown that I allowed my boundaries to be crossed just to make something work. And that resentment taught me a lot about, no matter how big or small my boundaries or standards are, that I should never lower them just to make something work with someone. If I'm already doing that, then it's not gonna work in the future. And it manifested. The outcome showed. And so when you're in that state of rumination and when you finally figured out that trigger, for me that trigger was resentment, it taught me a lot about myself. And now I've learned a very valuable lesson. Am I in rumination anymore? No, thank you. I'm over it. I do not care about it. And another thing that you guys can do as well is write your scenarios down. Write them on paper so you can visually see it and see how crazy you are. First, it's gonna be a relief. Trust me, it's going to relieve you. But eventually, it's gonna come to the point where you're just mentally tired. You're tired of you creating these scenarios, and it comes to a point where you kind of are back into reality and you're looking at what you're writing and you're like, oh my God, it is not that deep. The fourth thing as well, if it still hurts you, that means that you need to work on something. There is something that is still bothering you, and there's something about you that you need to work on. You might need to work on learning how to love yourself. You might need to work on how to seek closure on your own. You might need to work on learning what forgiveness is. Those are little things. That's what rumination is teaching you about. It's It's teaching about the things that you need to work on. Just how I told you guys about, the first time I've ever experienced rumination, or I learned how to love myself after that. I learned how to give myself closure. I learned how to be the person that gives me the answers for everything instead of trying to seek it from the person I'm trying to get an answer from. I became the answer. Another thing that helps me too is like whenever I find myself overthinking, the moment I'm aware of it, I say, stop. It is not real. None of it's real. None of it's real. And I take a deep breath. And then after that, when I'm like taking my deep breaths, I live back in the present and I focus on my surroundings. Like, okay, the tree is red right now. There's a lot of leaves on the floor. My body feels good. Like I focus myself into reality. What can I see right now in real life instead of seeing what's going on in my head? And it really does help a lot. Please, another thing too, if you are in a state of rumination and you want to fight rumination, just talk to yourself and be like, imagine thinking about this for the next 20 years. Do you really want to be thinking about something that has happened to you 20 years ago? Hell no. What happened to me 20 years ago, I better have memory loss. I don't care about what happened to me 20 years ago. Okay? By the time I reach 40, I don't care about whatever thing I went through when I was in my 20s. This is the mindset I need you guys to have when you're in that state of rumination and to fight it. Other than that, that's honestly what rumination is. That is a secret formula. That really is. It's a mental battle of you versus you, and how can you be more self-aware and how can you live more in the present. I hope this video made you feel less alone when you're in that state of rumination. But at the same time, I hope I gave you realistic advice to get out of rumination, because I promise you it's going to make you crazy. And if you did like this video, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you do like my advice or you like my personality or whatever you like about me. I would appreciate it. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.